informed her, proved unshakably enthusiastic. As Ottilia had known it would, that decided the matter. Frances could never refuse Pretty anything. "It is of no use to protest that I spoil her to death, my dear one, since you saw fit to broach the business in the first place." The accusation had elicited a giggle, but Ottilia had in truth felt uplifted at the prospect herself. Not that she yearned for excitement, but she found herself with time on her hands once Luke was weaned, and life at Flitteris afforded little in the way of stimulation for a mind too used to being exercised by baffling puzzles. At first, Daylesford had provided just enough distraction to keep her engaged. However, once the married pair had departed upon their honeymoon trip, with the lakes as their declared goal, followed in short order by members of the bridegroom's family heading for home, there was little to hold Ottilia's interest. Within a very few days, the sensation of a lack in her life again made itself felt. Ottilia chided herself as she walked, enjoying the cooling waft of air coming off the water. It would not do. She had much for which to be thankful, as indeed she was. Luke was a constant source of joy and Pretty of amusement. She had a husband she adored and who loved her in return. Her household ran like clockwork, even without her intervention. Nor was she purse-pinched, nor subject to the whims of others. Her situation was enviable in every way. And yet... A little sigh escaped her. Guilt lodged in her bosom. Why could she not settle in the way Francis had? He had become quite the country squire, grudging only those duties that drew him too long away from his home environment. Admittedly, these were few. He seemed content to follow at a distance the progression of hostilities with Spain and France, which looked to be forming an alliance against Great Britain. To Ottilia's mind, her husband's interest was but cursory in anything outside the concerns of his immediate family. Her meandering led her to a little jetty protruding out into the river, and Ottilia stepped onto it, moving to stand right above the fast-flowing water. It was pleasant to feel the breeze, and she breathed in freshened air. Her gaze wandered across the water to the bank beyond. Trees abounded on the other side, which likely accounted for the cooler atmosphere. The estates extended across the river and well beyond. Gilbert Fisk, the Earl of Daylesford, had been explaining to Frances how the land on the other side of the forest was occupied in the main by cottagers, employed by his agent to work the fields and the farm, maintaining its buildings. The great ooze at this point was wide, its waters running fast, eddying around the bend and rolling along a downward slope on its way south. It split the Daylesford estate, which ran for some way in both directions. Ottilia shaded her eyes as she looked along its course, her gaze catching on the distant posts just visible beyond the next turn, which she knew to be the start of the bridge that took the main road across. Gil had spoken of his 3 young sons' enthusiasm for fishing, saying how the jetty had been built to accommodate their hobby. Were the fish abundant here, then? Ottilia looked down into the water. She caught a flash of silver beneath the blue and leaned closer. Yes, there. A big one, too. It was gone in a second, but another soon followed, and she amused herself with spotting them as they passed below. "Take care, Tilly." Ottilia briefly straightened, turning to acknowledge her husband's shouted admonition with a wave. As she leaned over the water once more, she felt her ankle seized. Instinct made her look down. A tug on her leg unbalanced her. A shocked cry escaped her lips, silenced as she lost her footing and plunged headlong into the depths. Lord Francis had turned his attention back to his brother-in-law when he heard his wife's cry of alarm and the subsequent heavy splash. He just caught sight of her dipping beneath the waters. "Tilly!" He was up, only half aware of the shouts and motion around him as he ran. "She's fallen in. Milady!" Damnation.